right, it's time for the Legends of Sports update here on ESPN Radio 94.1 on 757 Saturday Sports Talk. Matt Hatfield here with you, and we're pleased to be joined by a Hall of Famer, the guy that wore jersey number 64 for the Green Bay Packers, Lombardi's team, player, author, commentator, 11-year career with the Packers, Hall of Fame inductee in 2018, one of the best offensive linemen of all time. We're talking about Jerry Kramer, brought to us today from our friends, Coach Charles Hatch, the living legend of Norview High School, Sports Inside and Out, sportsinsideandout.com, and orthopedic surgeon Steve Cummings. Coach Hatcher, we got ourselves a special one who can give us some great stories from the Lombardi Packer days.
Oh, yeah. Our affiliation, we're going to tell all about our age. We're Clown Launching gifted, I should say. We go a long ways back, and even when we were doing some things when they Globetrotters, and, in the past, we used to do, and hopefully, God willing, we'll bring this back. Every Super Bowl, Matt, we would do the Hall of Fame and NFL alumni, one of the most sought-after venues and programs doing Super Bowl. And we had we had every living Hall of Famer, living All-Pro, any football team, their top rated stars was with us constantly. Jerry, I think we did that thing many a year, Jerry. I think it was over 20 years plus. And
it was a long time.
Yeah,
it was a long time, and it was a really good time.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting, especially in Hawaii. I like that one. But, the worst one we ever had, man, we were in Detroit in the Super Bowl, and it was the worst Super Bowl in history. It took us a half hour to get from the hotel to the indoor arena in Ford. I was madness.
Was that the Steelers Seahawks Super Bowl? Was that Super Bowl 40?
Yeah.
That was a rough one, and Seahawks fans are still mad about the officiating that game. But let's jump into it, Coach Hatcher, with the guy who also was known as the best knuckleball kicker in the NFL, too, to go with his excellent blocking there with those famous sweep plays for the Packers. Jerry Kramer with us. Jerry, it's a pleasure, and let me start with you first. I know you were a finalist 10 times before you finally got that call to the Hall there. What did that mean to you a couple years back, getting that Hall of Fame call?
Well, it was a bitter disappointment a number of times, and in 97, I was in New Orleans expecting to be inducted, and it didn't happen, and so it was doubly painful because and everybody else told me we were going in and it was going to be wonderful and on and on. So I got my little lip out just a little bit, and I pouted a little bit, and I got angry a little bit, and I said, who cares, and, it doesn't mean that much anyway, and I've been here and I've been there, and I finally, one stormy night, sitting there drinking a beer, and, well, you're a damn fool, and you're a liar, because it does mean a lot. It means everything, and especially at this point in your career, when you're no longer going to be playing, it's the only thing left. So when it happened, a few years later, I had accepted the fact that I was not going into the Hall of Fame, and I had made a story up that I had had a wonderful life, and I had wonderful experiences, and I had been 5-time world champ, been the best guard in history for the first 50 years, and I had had a lot of honors and a lot of wonderful moments, and I had no right to be upset because somebody didn't give me one honor. That's kind of stupid. So I kind of came to an accommodation with all of that and agreed that it was a wonderful game and it was a wonderful time, and I had had a wonderful career with a great coach and a great bunch of guys, and I had no room to bitch. I had nothing to cry about. It's just been a wonderful ride. So I kind of got used to that, and I was just kind of getting comfortable with it, and the call came that I had been nominated again for the 11th time, and we're in the hotel in Minneapolis, and Mr. Baker, who is the head of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, he's 6'9" and about 350, and I was an older player who had been nominated to a different group, and so I thought they would get to me first, and that the knock on the door, they were going to come knock on your room. I got all my kids, 6, 8 kids, and friends and family, and 15 or 20 of us in the room. And so I'm looking at the clock, and it's supposed to be finished at 4, and it's 3 o'clock, and now it's 3:15, and now it's 3:20. And finally there's a knock on the door, and I jump up and run to the door, and all pumped up, and it's the maid. And she's got to look like a rabbit in a headlight, right? Geez, what's going on? And I said, oh, never mind, Jared, never mind. We're going to be a little while. So about 10 minutes later, there's a boom, boom, boom knock on the door. And it wasn't any question who that was. There's only one guy big enough to make that kind of noise. So I went over to the door and I go, who is it? And I opened the door, and he's laughing and giggling, and he puts his arms out and gives me a big hug. I said, you are the most beautiful man I have ever seen anywhere, anytime. And I was selected to go into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and my children were all there, and my pals were there. And it was a seminal moment, just one of a kind, and a great, great honor and a great thrill to be a part of it. And it's a wonderful, wonderful title.
That is so awesome. And, of course, you were the member of the NFL's 50th anniversary team, the only one not in the Pro Football Hall of Fame until you got that call, member of the 60s first team all-decade. And one of the things you said at your induction speech, Jerry, was something that your high school coach had told you, and that was, you can if you will. How many flashbacks did you have during the speech, that moment when you finally got told you were going in, from all the upbringing days, your days back in Idaho and everything, getting up to that point?
Well, that was a beginning for me. And as a freshman in high school, we had a coach named Dusty Klein, older fella, and he came over to me one day, and I was kind of gawky. I was a little awkward and I'd grown about a foot in the last year. And so I was struggling a little bit, and he came over and grabbed a hold of my hand. He said, son, you got big hands. You got big feet. And one of these days you're going to grow into them. And when you do, you're going to be one hell of a football player. And then he started to leave, and he turned back, and he said, you can if you will. And I said, can what? If I will what? What do I need to do? What do I have to do? And he just smiled at me with a kind of a half smile and walked away and left me to think about it. And I think that's a great moment for me, and it kind of reflected my life. I was down so many times, but I wouldn't quit. I wouldn't give up. I wouldn't stop. I would figure a way to come back. Too many operations and too many stitches to even comment about, but I thought about quitting 100 times, and I never would quit. I just had to make it work and make it go. So it finally worked out for me, and that was Coach Lombardi, part of that too. He chewed my tail unmercifully one day, and then came running up to me and got next to my nose, and he said, Mr. Concentration period, college student, 5 minutes, high school is 3 minutes, kindergarten is 30 seconds. You don't have that, so where's that put you? Well, it hit me checking my shoe shine and thinking about leaving, and what am I going to do, and I'm never going to make this guy happy. And I go up to the locker room, and he stays out for about 30 minutes with Bart and the wide receivers. And the locker room's pretty empty when he comes in, but he comes down to my locker, and my head's down, my hat's off, my shoulder pads are off, my chin on my hand, checking the carpet. He rubs up back my head and pats me on the shoulder and says, son, one of these days you're going to be the best guard in football.
Really?
And it just blew me up. It just absolutely gave me a shot of electricity through my body, and it gave me a picture, and it gave me a encouragement to continue to drive and continue to push. And he changed my attitude and changed my life.
We're talking with the Green Bay Packers Hall of Famer Jerry Kramer here on our Legends of Sports update, brought to us by the living legend from Norview High School days, Coach Charles Hatcher, here on 757 Saturday Sports Talk on ESPN Radio 94.1, SportsInsiderNow.com, bringing you all the podcasts and conversations with the legends from the Commonwealth and beyond here. And Jerry, now I was told by my cohort, Coach Ed Young, if you talk to the great Jerry Kramer, you got to ask him this question. December 31st, 1967, the Ice Bowl, Packers Cowboys at Lambeau Field. Ask him, was it really that cold that day?
It was minus 51, I believe. It's a chill factor. It was only like minus 17 normally, but there was a little breeze and a little wind and whatnot, and it was a wonderful day. Actually, the moment I had was at the end of the game where I blocked Jethro Pugh, and we went in for a touchdown to score. Bart scored, and we win by 3 or 4 points. But I had suggested that play on Thursday.
Really?
We're looking at got his nose about 6 inches from the dirt, and you can't move him with a D9 cat. But Jethro's coming up a little bit, and so I watched that film, and virtually every play where he's coming straight ahead, he's high. I watched the second film and the third film, and finally the films are about over, and I say, Coach, we can wedge Q if we have to. Again, this is Thursday, and he barks at me like he does, what? And we can wedge Q if we have to. Run that back. So he ran the play back a couple times. That's right. Put in a wedge on Q. So you never know if they're going to use the play. They talk about it in certain situations. Obviously, it's a situational play, but blah 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 blah. It may never happen. And if it does happen, you don't think it's going to be on the 1 yard line with 17 seconds to go, and you need to score. You're down 3 points. You need to score to win and go on to the Super Bowl. You don't imagine yourself putting yourself in that position, or you would keep your mouth shut and just let Bart call what he wanted to call. But I had found a little divot where my left foot went, and I kind of snuggled it down into that divot and got me a little starting block and came off the ball well, and Jethro did exactly what he'd been doing in the film. And so I caught him in the chest, and we went back about 3 or 4 yards. Bart fell in behind me, and Mr. Lombardi was very happy. He was,
hey, Matt, that game, Jethro was a friend of mine. And the last time, this is God willing before he passed, but we were at we were in Phoenix, Jerry, even when we did the Phoenix Super Bowl with Nick out there, and Jethro came up. He was standing up there with Ed. He was talking about this thing, and it was Paul Horning over. He said, you know what? I knew exactly, the whole team knew exactly what he was going to do. And Steve, you could dive on this because you saw it on too. But Jethro said, we knew everything they would do. This is the first team. We knew every play, and we knew where they were going to come. But this one play, he could not get a grip to stop him, and he pushed him back. He said that was the only time that I really looked over there at Jerry and said, man, you really got me. Jethro never said anybody really got it. He said, that was his pull. He said, congratulations, you got me. This one you deserved because it was my fault. You knew exactly what he was going to do. That was very interesting because he just talked about that in Phoenix at the Super Bowl. That was very interesting. Yeah, very interesting. Steve, you were there looking at some of the stuff here at your office. What were some of the things that, real quickly, something that you saw that could be potential a old fellow like Jerry when he was kicking?
Well, Jerry, when he was kicking?
Yeah.
He's still kicking.
I'm playing.
He was a kicker. He was an offensive lineman. He's telling us he worked with the defense too. He did it all, it sounds like. Let me tell you a quick couple stories about my kicking. I was a rookie, and they put me in to kick in Cleveland with about 80,000 people, and I choked, and I swiped at the ball, and it hardly got over shoulder height, and it hit a lineman in the backside, and the loudspeaker guy says, and the kick is blocked. And I said, thank you. But then I got the kick in New York in Yankee Field in the 62 championship game, and I kicked 3 field goals and extra point there, and I scored 10 points, and we win 17-7, and the guys vote me the game ball. And the writers, you'll love this, they voted Nitschke the game Corvette. Oh, really? So the offensive guard gets the football, and the linebacker gets the Corvette. Now, isn't that even, Steven?
No.
Not exactly. What's the life of a lineman?
Jerry, I'm curious because you had 2 of the most iconic plays in NFL history. That block, which is still to this day on Jethro in the Ice Bowl, considered, if not the greatest block, certainly one of them in pro football history. And that 62 NFL championship game where you hit that game-winning field goal against the Giants at Yankee Stadium, I think it sometimes gets forgotten about in comparison to that block play and the great Lombardi soundbite where he goes, "Attaboy, Jerry!" But for you, what was more special? I mean, I know they're both very special, but was either one of the 2 above the other in your eyes looking back at it?
Well, the one at Yankee Stadium was like, it's a long way from Sandpoint, Idaho. Mm-hmm. standpoint was about 2,000 people, and we would have meager crowds at our games and our basketball events and all of the things. And so being in Yankee Stadium, where Ali had fought in the Yankees and the history and the World Series and so much history in Yankee Stadium, it was just overwhelming to walk around in it. And I was a little nervous, and I'm kicking, and I said, keep your head down. If you don't do anything else, keep eye contact with the ball through the kick. And I kicked the first field goal, and I'm still looking down. And when I look up, it's outside the goalpost. And the wind, again, was 25, 30 miles an hour, and the official is raising his hands in an indication that the kick was good. And I go, what the hell is he doing? And Bart was right next to him, and he said, shut up and get off the field. I said, yes, sir. Yes, sir. So my final field goal, it was about 35, 37 yards, and I aimed 10 yards outside the right goalpost, and the ball came in with the wind and came down through the middle of the goalpost, and that was our final score. But I had to aim outside the post at least 10 yards. So it was a great day. The game in Green Bay was satisfying from a number of ways. Coach Lombardi was interviewed by a fellow from Esquire that was a really nasty article, and he had been ridiculed, and to the point where Coach Lombardi's family was very upset with it, and his mother was crying about it. So I made up my mind if I got in front of the microphone, I'd say something about Coach Lombardi. And Tommy Brookshire brought me over and said, Jerry, what about this Coach Lombardi? What's the deal on this? There's a lot of controversy, a lot of different opinions about him. How do you guys feel? And I said, Brookie, those guys don't know Coach Lombardi. They have no idea who the hell he is or what he is or where he is or anything about it. We know him, we understand him, and we love it. This is one beautiful man. And Mama liked that, and Coach Lombardi liked that, and Red Blake liked that, and Jerry felt pretty good about it too.
We're talking with Jerry Kramer, the Hall of Fame right guard from the Green Bay Packers, helping them win 5 NFL titles and a couple of Super Bowls in our Legends of Sports update, brought to us by our pal, Coach Charles Hatcher of Norview High School fame, the living legend, Sports Inside and Out. Go check out all the podcasts and everything he does, sportsinsideandout.com. It's ESPN Radio 94.1 here. And Jerry, and kind of piggybacking on the great Vince Lombardi, give me a story or two that you can share as far as what made him just so unique. I know you have countless stories of your days with Lombardi there, playing for him.
You know, he never would let an argument leave the field or the clubhouse. He would settle it before it got out and got to the guys, sat down at the bar and bitch and moan and carry on. And I'm playing, 67, I think, and we played the Rams, and then the next week we played the Niners. And so I'm playing against Merlin Olsen of the Ram game, and I break a couple ribs. No, I break a couple ribs against San Francisco, and then I play against Merlin the next week. And in between, there was a all-pro group that came out, and there was an article about Kramer and Thurston being the best guard in the NFL. And that was a little too much exposure for guards, and a little too much good news, right? So Coach Lombardi gets all worked up and best guards in the NFL. We got the worst guards in football, the worst. And now I blow up. I'm start heading toward him. I'm gonna bust his face. I'm gonna knock him down, right? And he turns around and starts walking, and he gets over to where we're having a huddle. And I follow him right behind him, just seething, and I'm gonna hit him. I've made up my mind that he'd be suspended and be out of football, be gone, but I'm going to hit him anyway. I'm going to bust his face. And so he walks about 20 feet on past where the huddle is, and he walks back and forth looking at his shoes. He won't look at me. I'm standing up straight. I don't bend over. I'm looking at him, and I'm just waiting for a moment to have him look at me or something, and he won't look at me. So Bart called the play. I turn around, and I walk very slowly up to the line of scrimmage, and I bend over. I don't put my hand down. I don't get in my stance. I don't run the play. I just bend over, and I go back and start glaring at Coach Lombardi again. And the guys all come back for another play, and I said, Fuzz, I'm out. I'm out of here. Get the hell, I'm out of here. So I leave the huddle, and I walk over by myself, and I'm down about 30, 40 yards from where the huddle is and the practice is, so I'm completely removed. And he waits about 3, 4, 5 minutes, and here he comes. And I look behind me, and there's nobody behind me. There's nobody on my right or my left. There's just me, and he's coming right toward me. And I'm wondering, now, what the hell has he got to say? And he comes up to me and slaps me on the shoulder and messes up my hair and whatnot. Oh, I didn't mean you. I wasn't talking about you. Come on, what's wrong with you? And he, in his way, he apologized. He reestablished communication, and he erased the moment that he'd lost his temper and said some things that he probably shouldn't have said. So he wouldn't let that go to the dinner table or to the afterwards. You know, he's going to settle it right now. So that's pretty accurate with the type of personality he had. He was called Mr. High-Low at the New York Giants at one point, because he was up and down like a toilet seat with his emotions. He was just all over the place. But he had a great burn. He had a great fire. And he had a great hunger to win, to be the best. And that's the difference in our team. The major difference was the emotional involvement and the power or the strength you get from emotion versus a guy who was just kind of ho-hum in a kind of an average kind of way, just kind of going through things, or a guy who is really pumped and really emotional, and he's going to be in the same place, but he's going to perform a hell of a lot better than the guy that's not using any emotion. So that's what Coach Lombardi depended upon, was the emotion, the burn, the hunger, the fire, the drive, the want, the need, the whole package.
And everybody yearns to hoist that Lombardi trophy and win the Super Bowl. Following up on that, Jerry, you played for him. We only get to see the clips that are shown on the networks, like NFL Network, where he's at the chalkboard, like you get a seal here, and you run it up the alley, and you made that block happen there for that touchdown in the Ice Bowl. And how do you think Lombardi, if he was here today, coaching today's players, how do you think they would relate to him and he would relate to them?
You know, I think all the guys want to win. They want to show off a little bit more now than maybe we did, and they play in their little dances and their little games and whatnot, which is fine. But we had a burn to win. We didn't know how long we'd be playing professional football. For most of us, it was a wonderful, wonderful break. Most of us were poor kids. I don't think many rich kids played football or violent sports like that. They went to basketball or track or band or whatever they did, you know. But I think he would be wonderful. I believe that the emotion is a power, is a strength, is a add-on to your normal personality in terms of strength and everything like that. It just makes a dramatic difference. And we lost the Philadelphia game in 1960 to Chuck Cement Head Charlie Bednarik and the Eagles. And immediately, Charlie was laying on Jimmy Taylor on the 7-yard line, and the clock expired, and we're down 3 points, 4. And Coach Lombardi, we're all in the locker room raising hell, kicking cans and throwing stuff around and just really angry and frustrated. And first time any of us had been in a championship game, and we didn't know if we'd ever be back. So Coach Lombardi finally comes in after 15, 20 minutes and jumps up on a trunk full of warm-ups and whatnot. He said, "Bring it up! Everybody up!" So we brought it up to the front of the room where he was, and he goes, "Okay, this year we played in the championship. Next year we win the championship." And everybody hooted and hollered and carried on and believed it. And then we started thinking about all the hard work that he put us through. And first thing he says the first night in Green Bay, there'll be trains and planes and buses leaving here every day. And some of you may be on them. And we're going to work. We're going to work harder than you've ever worked in your life. And we did. We had calisthenics, and we'd have guys lose consciousness, just roll over and be on, pass out. So we decided that he was right about that at that Eagle loss, and that was the beginning of the Green Bay Packer organization, I believe.
Got 2 more for you, Jared, and I greatly appreciate the time I could speak with you all day and night here. And, you're not only the guy that had that block, but you're the architect of a best-selling book, Instant Replay, chronicling the story of an offensive lineman. In your eyes, what makes a great offensive lineman?
Oddly enough, I think a small amount of intelligence helps. I studied my guys night and day. You remember Leo Nomalini, the San Francisco defensive tackle, Hall of Famer? Leo was a professional wrestler. He's like 270, and he was a handful. But I started studying him, and I noticed that his feet were parallel. Niners ran a 4-3 defense. The tackles head up on the guard, middle linebacker on the center. So when he lined up on the guard, if he was going outside, his feet would be parallel. He would bring his right foot up to be even with his left foot. And when he was going inside, his right foot would be back about 1.5 feet, because he was naturally right-handed, and he would go inside. So I knew what Leo was going to do on every play, and I never told anybody about it till he'd retired. But I had what I told you about the Ice Bowl, about studying Jethro. Jethro displayed a weakness. So you got to have the physical capabilities. You got to have an ability to withstand pain and discomfort and heartache and a whole bunch of things. And you got to be able to play without your mama knowing what you're doing out there. You're not going to get many write-ups. You're not going to get much notoriety. You're not going to get much credit. So you've got to deal with that and accept that and do your job. Get yourself in the mind where you're not going to let the team down. You're going to take care of your business. And I played angry. I played intelligent anger, I hoped. I would imagine that my defensive tackle had burned my home, shot my dog, killed my kids, raped my wife. I am going to bust his face. But I wouldn't ever get a penalty. It was stupid to get a penalty against your team. But you could use that anger, you could use that emotion to generate a strength and additional ability to play. Quite an emotional deal to get myself ready to play. But a combination of those things, and hopefully the ability to withstand a little pain now and then.
Well, that's fascinating to me. And Coach Hatcher, to just kind of follow up on that point a little bit there with Jerry, and getting to interview a number of high school, college, and professional athletes over the years, particularly in the sport of football. Offensive linemen, I think they kind of get that bad rep of being, there's a big clunky guys. But the intelligence he speaks on is so really, really true there. They're a brighter bunch than people give them credit for. And as you hear from Jerry, the fine details, the film study, to me, separates the good from the Hall of Fame great.
Very true. One great coach that I do respect, a guy named Joe Gibbs. We were talking with Doug Williams one time, and he said the most intelligent guy on the line has to be the guard. It has to be the guard. Everybody else can get about, but if you don't have an intelligent guard that understands the game and what he needs to do, everything really comes off the card. And he said the tackle, center, everything is pretty. I've said for the tight end, the guard has to be the utmost intelligent type of person with a great football IQ to be able to be successful. I guess that's pretty much what Jerry personified during that era that he played. Very admirable.
Final one for you, Jerry, and I greatly appreciate the time again. Do you follow these Packers much, and what do you think of Aaron Rodgers and this bunch?
Oh, yeah, I'm glued to the tube every ball game. I know they're playing Saturday night this week, so I'm already making plans for that. But I was not a big Aaron fan when he was trying to take Brett's job.
Okay.
I was a Brett guy. I thought Brett was a sensational quarterback and a tough kid and a lot of fun and whatnot. But over the years, I have been watching Aaron and watching Aaron and watching Aaron, and he is sensational. He just does a wonderful job. He throws that ball so precisely almost all the time. And I've always wondered, I can throw a football 20 yards, 30 yards, something like that, but I can't make it go over their head and dive. I don't know how they throw that ball exactly 47 yards and it lands within 6 inches of the receiver's hands, right? And he is just a sensational athlete and doing a wonderful job. And it's a kind of an interesting combination between he and Mahomes from Kansas City. He's a young whippersnapper that is playing awfully well also. Mm-hmm. But I love Aaron. I love his game. I love his attitude. I love his courage, everything about him. So I'm an Aaron fan from now on.
Well, it'll be really interesting to see if we get a Packers-Chiefs Super Bowl matchup with Rodgers and Mahomes. And so privileged to be joined with here on the Legends of Sports update, Jerry Kramer, the Hall of Famer who won 5 titles with the Packers, a couple of Super Bowls, the excellent right guard, and, of course, right out of the University of Idaho, brought to us by Coach Charles Hatcher, Norview High School fame, Sports Inside and Out. When legends speak, people listen. SportsInsideAndOut.com, the website here for us on 757 Saturday Sports Talk. Gentlemen, it was an absolute treat. Best wishes to you and a Happy New Year for 2021, all right?
All right, guys. Thanks for having me on, and enjoyed being with you. Thank you.
All right, be safe,
Thank you, gentlemen.
Matt. You take care.
The one and only Jerry Kramer with us right here on 757 Saturday Sports Talk on ESPN Radio 94.1.